kashrut, keeping kosher, right?
Yeah.
Last time we talked about the non-kosher species of animals and birds and fish. And last time we talked about the non-kosher parts of kosher animals. And last time we talked about the ways in which animals are prepared for kosher consumption. We talked about shchita, ritual slaughter. We talked about malicha, the salting. We defined treifa, which is an injured animal or a sick animal, and nevela, which is an animal which wasn't shechted, didn't receive shchita. That was all last time. And all of this is basically in the Torah itself. If you read the Torah, you would sort of figure out certain things you can eat, certain things you can't eat. I guess the salting, the soaking, the malicha, that's not explicit in the Torah, but the Torah does say we don't eat blood, and so a method of removing blood seems that's not. You might realize that from the Torah. There's the real rabbinic innovation or rabbinic discovery when it comes to kashrut is the idea in Hebrew is called ta'am ki'ikar, or ta'am ki'ikar, which means the taste is like the thing itself, and this is like a whole. This is the big transition from kashrut as it's sort of described in the Torah and kashrut the way we live and practice it. Okay, we're not just concerned about the substance, pieces of bacon or lobster, but the taste of the bacon or lobster. Yes?
Why?
That's actually a dispute in the Talmud. Some say this is actually part of the biblical prohibition itself. The Torah doesn't just prohibit the food itself, but also prohibits the taste of the food. So perhaps this is a Torah concept that the rabbis discovered in the Torah, or had a tradition is in the Torah. Others say it's a rabbinic piece of legislation, like a fence around the Torah, that we're not just going to be concerned about the thing itself, we'll be concerned about its taste. So this means that we need to be really sure that even small amounts of non-kosher ingredients can render a mixture non-kosher, and this also means that cooking utensils and eating utensils could also be problematic if they allow for the transfer of taste from something non-kosher to something kosher. So now you have to sort of figure out the rules of transfer of taste. Now it's sort of like it's like cooties. It has its own like rules of how it's transferred from thing to thing, but really it's not. It's like physics. I mean, or chemistry. It's for the rabbis, they understood this as a form of chemistry or a form of physics. There is this substance, it's called tam, it's called the taste of something, and it's transferred from food to mixture to pot to mixture to other food according to a system of physics and chemistry as they understood it. It's a little bit harder for us to relate to it that way since we don't experience the reality the way they described it. But the reason why that is most likely because our kitchens are filled with materials, none of which existed 6 years ago. Right, the metal, the alloys in your pots and pans, and the materials that your countertops are made from, and your plastic cutting boards. These are all, materials that were invented and brought into mass use, in the post-World War II time period. If you use old cast iron or wood for a wood chopping board or a cast iron skillet, you can experience this transfer of taste like quite directly. Yes?
I'm sorry, so I'm assuming immersing like mikvah for the pots and pans would not.
No, we're not talking about that. No.
It wouldn't help.
No, not for this. No. So how does taste get transferred? So we assume taste is transferred with heat. Okay? Heat causes transfer of taste. If there's no heat, there's no transfer of taste. This means if, let's take some examples. If you have a steak sitting on your counter and a drop of milk falls on your steak, you just wipe it off and it's fine. Rinse it off and it's fine. If you have if you're shredding cheese and a piece of cheese flies across your kitchen and lands on your chicken salad, just remove it and it's fine. Okay? Because it's cold. And the proximity when they're cold doesn't enable transfer of taste. Piece of,
It makes sense that's chemistry because you need to, from chemistry point of view, you need to break down the atom to make them unstable so they would come.
The molecules are, sure, absolutely. Taste is, we assume taste is transferred at the entire, up to taste, so let's say taste transfers up to 60 times its volume under most circumstances. So 1 cubic centimeter of bacon that falls into a big pot of chicken soup. So you remove the bacon, but you haven't removed the taste because if it's hot, then taste is transferred instantly, and the taste transfers. We assume that like the bacon that you removed from the chicken soup right away. Oh my gosh, what happened? Is now like all of the taste has been like it's like 100% filled with taste, and then all that taste goes instantly. Like we assume the strictest possible circumstance that it all went out into the chicken soup. But if there's 60 times the volume of the chicken soup, then you're not concerned because we say that taste is nullified. You remove the bacon, the taste is nullified. If the bacon dissolves, it's a piece of like non-kosher fat, and it just dissolves into your chicken soup. So there's nothing left, but 60 times the volume, it's nullified. The taste isn't there; it's non-existent. In the olden times, they talked about having a Gentile cook, to taste, and you give it to him and you say, "Do you taste any bacon in this chicken soup?" And he'd say, "No, not at all." And then he would say, "Fine, it's okay." We don't really do that anymore. Now it's really just based on 60 times the volume. That's the circumstances under which taste is nullified. Taste also gets absorbed into pots and pans and utensils again if it's piping hot. So you boil your chicken soup on your boiling some chicken soup, and a big chunk of ham falls into your chicken soup, and you remove it, but there isn't 60 times its volume to nullify it because the taste of ham is there in your chicken soup. So the chicken soup isn't kosher, and the pot isn't kosher anymore because the pot has absorbed the taste. Okay, so the pot has to be,
There's no specific period of time?
If it's piping hot, we say it all happens immediately. And if it's cold, it happens after 24 hours. Okay, that's called kavush k'mevushal. Something which is pickled is akin to being cooked. So you could either cook something and instantly it happens, or let's say if you have a non-kosher animal like a mouse crawls into your chicken soup and drowns, and you discover it a day later.
Oh, you really just go throwing up for a week or something.
So you remove the mouse isn't kosher. If you have 60 times the volume, then it's okay. If you don't, the soup is not kosher because it was cold, let's say, but it was more than 24 hours, so it's like pickled in the soup and the whole thing. Look.
Yeah.
This happens, okay?
You get somebody to taste if you taste the mouse. No?
Right. You could try that. The truth is that the mouse case, this is discussed in the halachic literature. It depends if it's a city mouse or a country mouse, because the city mice don't taste good, the country mice taste good, and so it's more of a problem, which we'll see why in a minute.
Taste of the mouse.
Your plates are not going to be as much. So, the other thing is sort of so taste is absorbed through heat, something on the fire, something piping hot. Once something's no longer piping hot, taste isn't transferred instantly, only if it soaks in it for 24 hours. So what other some applications? All right, so I mean, you shouldn't have non-kosher stuff in your kitchen, but if accidents happen and things fall in, dairy and meat, which we actually haven't talked about yet, but dairy and meat is also a forbidden mixture. That was a more common accident to happen in a kosher kitchen, that some milk will fall, I don't know, whatever, you'll spill something, and the rules are the same. If it's hot, then there's an instant transfer of taste, and that dairy meat combination will be unkosher right away. And if it's hot, there's instant transfer of taste from the thing that falls in. So milk falls into your hot chicken soup, instant transfer of taste. or cheese falls into your hot, whatever, instant transfer taste. And then not just the soup, if it's not nullified in 16 times its volume, the soup and the pot as well is going to be not kosher. Okay.
So even if you cannot remove, for example, the milk from your chicken soup, even if it's more than 60 times the volume, it's not kosher.
No, if it's more than 6 times the volume, that doesn't matter. Then there's no, the taste just is diluted.
Even if you cannot remove the milk?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Because it's dairy, it's just liquid, it's just all.
Okay.
And in both cases, the soup and the pan
Yeah,
is gone.
correct. Not kosher. I mean, the pot can be fixed. Yeah.
It's interesting, this idea of taste when there's beef bacon that's supposed to replace bacon, like at McDonald's.
Yeah,
Or there's kosher bacon chips.
correct. So it's not the taste good. That's important. That's an important point. It's not the taste per se, like the flavor of this thing. It's the flavor of something not kosher. That is a good point. It's not like God didn't want you to like enjoy that smoky bacony flavor. It's just we're not supposed to eat pigs, and so we don't eat the pig itself, nor even if the thing itself is removed, the flavor in the thing is also part of that. That's an important point though. So same is true. So non-kosher stuff that falls into your kosher stuff, this is the dynamic. Same is true with dairy falling into meat, meat falling into dairy. If it's cold, you can often fix the problem right away. If it's, so I don't know, like you have some meat plates in your sink, and then some dairy falls into it. So it's cold, that's fine. You rinse it off. You use a non-kosher, you buy fish from the fish store and use a non-kosher knife to cut the fish. It's cold, you rinse it off. If things are hot, it's more of a problem. Definition of hot is piping hot, so hot that your hand recoils, but also we're going to be even stricter and say it has to be the heat of a primary vessel, a kli rishon, which is the pot on the stove. That's like hot enough. But if you pour it from that pot on the, let's say you pour from the pot on the stove into a bowl on your table, that is a secondary vessel. And we say, even if it's still piping hot, still steaming at the table, we say that a secondary vessel doesn't have sufficient kinetic energy to impart taste. Why? Because the heat, one explanation, the heat is being used to, the kinetic energy, the thermal energy, I guess, is being used to heat the walls of the vessel that it's containing it, and therefore it's not available to transfer taste into something that it goes into. So that means there's always more grounds for leniency in your bowl, your plate, things that are on the table that are not like the item in which the thing was cooked itself, which is a huge ground for leniency.
Well, just because it uses when you take away the fire.
It definitely does, but even if you turn the fire off, if it's still in the primary vessel and piping hot, it's going to be a problem. You turn it off and... Yeah.
It's still boiling in there, but
Yeah.
transferring it to, like you said...
It causes it to cool down, exactly. And so the explanation is it's cooling down because it's heating up the thing it's in. And therefore, if something goes into it, it's not going to be the same transfer of taste. So that means that your dishes and your plates are probably not going to have absorbed taste, right? If your plates that sit on the table, I don't know, like you always serve something onto them. They're never, on the stove or in your oven. And so they probably are not really when you talk about your dairy dish, your dairy spoon, your meat plate, it might not actually be really a meat plate and a dairy spoon. A dairy spoon that you've used for cold cereal with milk or that you've used for ice cream is not actually a dairy spoon, because the only dairy it's come in contact with is cold. It's never actually absorbed dairy taste. To be a dairy spoon, you would have had to use it for, piping hot dairy soup. Or maybe like a piping hot lasagna. I don't know, would you use spoon to eat lasagna? Maybe not. So that also can be a very important thing to keep in mind. We have dairy and meat silverware and pots and pans and plates, but a lot of those gendered items aren't actually fully halakhically the gender that they're assigned, because they've never really actually absorbed taste from that type of food under the conditions in which taste is imparted, which is heat. Okay? Heat of a primary vessel, heat of a kli rishon. So I'm going to skip. So make sure the meat and milk are the same. Okay, 60 times volume, it's fine. More than 60 times, it's a problem. You need heat though for transfer taste. If if you don't have the thing itself.
What if it's like an item like ramen noodle soup, chicken flavor? It's just a flavor.
Again, that's what Emily said. If there's no actual, if it doesn't actually have the ingredient, then the flavor is irrelevant. I mean, if it's just salt and like seasoning, that's fine. It's the thing itself that we're concerned about. We say tam, the taste of the item is the taste from that came from the forbidden substance or from the meat or from the dairy, not something from a neutral source that's been chemically.
So I can keep mixing my ramen noodle
Yes.
soup with
Yes.
sour cream.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Or your bacon bits on your salad. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
So here's another important concept though. When we say the taste of the thing counts as the thing itself, that's only if it's a good taste. A taste that enhances the thing that it goes into. So, some bacon into your chicken soup, great, like bacon chicken soup, delicious. So, if you don't have 60 times the chicken soup to, nullify the bacon in it, you have a problem. But let's say, something like some bacon falls into your ice cream or something, something like really bad, where the combination is like a rancid, gross taste, then the taste is not going to make something forbidden. It's only a positive enhancing taste. If you don't have the thing itself, all you have is the taste. The taste has to be a good taste in the context of that mixture, in order to create a kashrut problem. Yes?
Who determine like what's a good and bad taste? I guess is it just like common?
I believe it's common. I believe it's sort of common. Let's say you really like it, but most people don't, or you really hate it, but most people do. I think we go. I think we're strict in both directions. Actually, I think we're strict in both directions, but I don't recall because this is extremely rare that it would be that kind of dispute. More common would be everyone agrees it's a rancid taste, and the really common application of this rule is as follows. Well, one very common application of this rule is there's something which we put on our dishes and in our kitchens all the time that has a really, really rancid taste. It tastes awful if you were to eat it, but you wouldn't eat it. But we put it on our dishes. Goes in all of our. Any ideas what I'm talking about?
Lemon rinds? I don't know.
Did you put lemon rinds on your dishes?
Lemons themselves? I don't know.
Dish
Soap, yeah, soap. Soap tastes really bad.
Oh.
And this is very important because it means that if you, let's say you have a dairy spoon that you accidentally put in your dishwasher with your meat items, or you're washing your dishes and accidentally the wrong gendered thing is there, and it's just like a spoon, filled with sour cream, with your meat dishes in your sink, but it wasn't actually sour cream and your meat dishes. It was sour cream mixed with soap in your meat dishes, and so it wasn't the enhancing good and therefore kashrut problematic taste of sour cream that was absorbed in your meat dishes. It was sour cream mixed with soap, which is a rancid taste that was absorbed, and therefore it's not going to cause a kashrut problem.
So would you,
You should always use soap.
no, I know that, but I mean, like, if that accidentally happened, would you then rewash or not use those dishes?
That's fine.
or-
No problem. Meaning,
People use it then easily as a loophole for mixing everything together.
This doesn't. You can't use this like lechatchila ad initio, in order to not separate your dairy and meat, or your kosher or non-kosher. But it just means that if after the fact, accidentally, something is washed in the wrong dishwasher or washed with the wrong things, if there's soap involved, it's not going to problem. I actually, when I fill my dishwasher, I always put a little bit of extra soap, just into the, I put it into the thing, little cup, and then another extra sprinkle into the dishwasher. As soon as the thing is on, even if the thing hasn't opened yet, from the very beginning, there's soap in that mixture mixed with the hot water and the dishes and the food residue and and all that. So that when it's a rancid taste that's being mixed around this dishwasher, if I accidentally put the wrong spoon in, it's not going to be a problem. And then likewise, hand washing things, there's going to be soap involved. I had there's a concern a few years ago. The Kashrut organization issued a report saying you have to be really careful of buying coffee, espresso from Starbucks because they serve like totally non-kosher food, hot non-kosher food, and the concern was they might let's say they have their ham sandwiches and they have the tongs they use to pick up those piping hot ham sandwiches. What if they wash those tongs together with the coffee making equipment that is used for the piping hot coffee? Then you could have a transfer of taste, right? From the ham sandwich to the tongs, and then from the tongs to the coffee, and then from the coffee making equipment, and then from the coffee making equipment to, let's say, the thing they use to whip the cappuccinos, right? That's also piping hot. So you could have a real problematic transfer of taste. Except that they always use soap when they wash things, and there was no possibility, I discovered, that you would have anything like soaking in hot water without soap. And the way I proved that way, I went to the local Starbucks and they showed me they have a proprietary blend of soap and water at precisely the right ratio. I mean, imagine if you have 3,000 Starbucks all over the world, if they're all using 5% too much soap, that's like millions of dollars in wasted soap. So they have just the right amount of soap that comes out of the spigot when they put the stuff into the sink. So and they actually have a separate sink for washing the coffee stuff because it's a special soap to get the coffee stains off. But even were they to scooper or stir, maybe if that got washed with the tongs that they use for the ham sandwiches, they turn on the spigot and soapy water comes out at precisely the right mixture. And so there's never a possibility of there being the stuff they would use for coffee and stuff they would use for the ham sandwiches soaking in a piping hot sink together. So in your sink, don't soak things in your sink. Okay, wash them with soap right away. The other reason why you could be lenient with a sink. What's the other reason why you'd be lenient if you're doing hand washing?
Come again.
There's another reason why you'd be lenient if you make a mistake while you're washing something by hand. Remember, we said the definition. We said the definition of.
Maybe not going to be as hot as.
It's not going to be as hot as.
Really has been known, like
As it's not like the definition of heat. We said was so hot that your hand recoils. So if you're washing it by hand, then it's not too hot for your hands, right? That's the definition. How do we know it's too hot? You can't stick your hands in it, or your hand goes like that. So if you're washing it by hand, it's not that hot, right? It might be, because you could be using gloves, and you could be having it really hot, and you're holding the dish So if you do that, if it's that hot, then you could have a kashrut problem if you don't use soap. But if you use soap, it's not going to be a problem. And if it's not so hot that you can't get your hands in there washing, scrubbing in that hot water, then it's also not going to be a problem. So lots of reasons why we're okay. So that's one application. It's a very important application of this concept. It's called noten tam lifgam. It imparts a rancid, negative, detracting taste rather than a positive taste. And therefore, and that's also true again in a mixture. Even if the bacon itself it tastes great, but when mixed with soap, it tastes rancid. And so if that's the thing that is absorbed in your dish, not a problem, doesn't cause a kashrut problem. It's only a positive taste. Yes?
Why would they find bacon in a Jewish home?
Very unlikely, but you'd find dairy in a Jewish home, you'd find meat in a Jewish home, and that's a much more common application. Right?
Right.
Okay, that happens all the time. People make mistakes with that. Look, the laws of the laws of kashrut. It's like keeping. Someone compared learning the laws of kashrut to in this way. It's like learning how to drive from reading insurance company accident reports, right? Learning how to drive is how to avoid accidents. And then the accident reports are, this happened, this car smashed this, and this is what happened, this is the outcome. So all of the halachot, the laws of kashrut, are all about, things that should never happen in a kosher kitchen, right? And the whole mechanism, the way in which kosher kitchens are maintained are like traditions and protocols to make sure these types of accidents never happen. And so that's great. These should never happen. But the laws of kashrut are all about, well, if this happens, what are the outcomes? So it is, I don't know, people, a spoon, gets put in the wrong place, you pick up the wrong spoon, you use it to stir your coffee with milk, and, the hot coffee, these types of things can't happen. So that's why these applications are important. There's another important application of this concept, Notzin Tam Lefkan, with the rancid taste not being a problem, and that is this based on this understanding that once a taste has been absorbed in the walls of a vessel, a spoon, a pot, for more than 24 hours, the taste goes rancid. And so if you subsequently cook something in that pot, the taste that's going to then come out from that pot into the food is going to be a rancid taste and is not going to cause a kosher problem. This is huge. This means that if you have a non-kosher pot that was used on Monday for cooking lobster bisque, okay, your Aunt Elaine cooks lobster bisque on Monday, and on Wednesday she cooks pasta. The pasta is kosher because the taste of the lobster bisque is absorbed into the pot. It's there for 24 hours. Becomes rancid. You boil your water for your pasta. The taste comes back into the water. It's a rancid taste. A rancid taste can't cause kosher problems. Now, there's a rabbinic prohibition against against cooking in non-kosher pots. Lichatchila, ad initio. You can't cook in non-kosher pots. But if one does, if Aunt Elaine cooks for you in a non-kosher pot, after the fact, the food is kosher. Yeah.
What about glass, like Pyrex?
Let's assume. Let's hold off on Pyrex. Glass doesn't. The way in which glass absorbs or not is subject to some dispute, and Pyrex is not even regular glass. It's sort of a glass, ceramic, metal. I don't quite understand what it is, but it's sort of a hybrid status anyway. Yeah.
Isn't that more of a problem for, say, wooden utensils or wooden bowl?
I mentioned at the beginning. The metal that we use, like stainless steel, we don't experience the taste as being absorbed. But as these new alloys were invented, the position taken was we're going to treat them just like the old metals. We're going to assume that all the same rules of kashrut apply, even to these new alloys like stainless steel, etc.
But I'm talking about actual wooden.
I understand. It's the same. It's exactly the same. Wood, metal, it's all the same. Even though we don't experience it in the metal that we have in our kitchens, you would experience it if you had a cast iron skillet, you would experience it, right? If you cook something in a cast iron skillet, the next thing you cook tastes like the thing you cooked before. If you have a wok, you're not supposed to wash it, right? You're supposed to let it absorb that flavor from use to use. Again, all of these older materials. Stainless steel isn't like that. Stainless steel is a wonderful thing. Before stainless steel, if you weren't a king and didn't have gold, silverware, your food tasted like your silverware. So it was invented by accident. Somebody was doing tests on alloys, and for some totally other purpose, and he came into his workshop after a couple of weeks, and he found one piece of junk on the floor that hadn't rusted. And he said, "Oh, this is something. This is worth, be worth something." Yeah, it's pretty cool. So this also means if you make a mistake and you use the wrong pot for something, you put something in use the wrong spoon for something. If it wasn't used for 24 hours for the opposite gender, or if it's a non-kosher thing that wasn't used for 24 hours, after the fact, the outcome is not going to be a problem. The food itself won't be a problem. The utensil could be. If you use a dairy pot for cooking chicken soup, so the dairy pot hasn't been used for 24 hours, the chicken soup is kosher. The pot now is not kosher because the pot has absorbed dairy and meat, has both of those absorbed in the pot. You have to kasher the pot to use it again. But the soup is kosher. You take a dairy spoon and you stick it use it for your hot chicken soup. So the spoon wasn't used in 24 hours, the chicken soup is fine.
And again...
But the spoon has to be kashered. Yes?
Yes, and that we do with...
We'll totally get there. Yes.
What is the difference? Sorry, I'm confused. What is the difference between the lobster bisque pot and you can wait 24 hours and then use that, and the milk?
There's the difference is, the lobster bisque pot was never kosher. So if you have a pot that was used for lobster bisque, it wasn't used for 24 hours, you use it for something kosher, the food is kosher. You're not allowed to do that. You can't use non-kosher utensils. But after the fact, if someone makes a mistake or it's the food is already, your Aunt Millie makes it, the food itself is kosher and can be eaten. With the dairy pot, but the pot wasn't kosher to begin with, and it's not kosher now. So,
Okay.
right? Whereas the dairy pot that you use for chicken soup, 24 hours has elapsed. The chicken soup is
You
kosher,
can't just go back to using it.
but the pot, no, because now it absorbed, the pot
Right.
itself has absorbed both. You have to kosher the pot, but the soup itself is kosher.
Okay.
So that's,
Got it. So
It's
the
also
difference is one started as a dairy
Exactly.
pot and one started as a nothing pot.
exactly,
Okay.
non-kosher pot. So,
Yeah,
so it stays non-kosher.
okay.
There's one other level, a third level of, or whatever, let me try, another level of leniency, and that is there's an assumption that unless you know for sure that it's not the case, we assume that any pot, pan, fork, knife, spoon, plate has not been used for 24 hours. You don't have to say, I know this wasn't used for 24 hours, unless you know that I remember using, this is my favorite spoon, and I used it just this morning, for my dairy hot oatmeal with milk, and now I'm using it for chicken soup 6 hours later. So unless you know for sure, we assume that stam kelim einam b'nei yomam, that a generic utensil has not been used for 24 hours. This is not true in restaurants. Restaurants constantly use everything, and you can't use this to justify eating, let's say, kosher ingredient food in a non-kosher restaurant, but this does mean that kosher food cooked in a non-kosher kitchen, the food itself is kosher, and it means that if you make a mistake, very often the outcome is not so terrible. Nonetheless, there's a rabbinic decree against doing this lechatchila. We're not allowed, we have to use kosher utensils only, but after the fact, if someone makes a mistake or the food's already cooked, then the food itself is in fact kosher because it's only a good taste, only the transfer of a good taste causes kashrut problems, the transfer of a rancid taste can't create kashrut problems, cannot create kashrut problems. That's why we don't just have one pot and wait 24 hours. Dishes, in the olden days, plates, people didn't have two sets of dishes, because dishes, again, are used for cold food and not used for piping hot food. So that would be less of a problem. You can use a meat bowl and a meat spoon to eat cold cereal, that's also not a problem. That there's no restriction on, that's totally fine. It's all cold, you wash it out when you're done, everything's great. That's not an issue at all. But people don't do that. If you do that, people look at you funny, or they'll be nervous. You can tell them that it's fine. Yes?
Yes, I'm struggling to understand why the first one with Anile is okay.
With the what?
With the one with Anile, carrot.
Oh, Antolane, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Why that's okay to continue eating from it? Like, I get, okay, she made soup. I didn't realize that this is the same one, the other day and it's not kosher. But then the next day she makes another soup and it's still from that non-kosher pot. So it's
Great,
still
so-
kosher. I don't know why, yeah.
So let's use these terms. Use the Hebrew terms. Just lechatchila and b'diavad. Okay? Lechatchila means ab initio. You can or can't. This is what you should do, or this is what you can't do. Like, optimal situation, or not even optimal situation. Just like at the outset, this is the law. B'diavad means after the fact. It's already been done. So now what do I do? So lechatchila, you're not allowed to use a non-kosher pot. B'diavad, the food is kosher. So you can't use a non-kosher pot to cook food. But if someone else does, then the food is kosher.
So you keep eating from that pot after the fact.
I think so. I mean, again, the other piece is that... So, look, if this is a long-term relationship with Aunt Elaine, I think it's probably a good idea to explain to her, about kashrut and that you prefer to use your own pot or to do takeout or something, but and you're not allowed to use those pots. But if she does, there's no once she puts the pasta in the pot, it's too late to cook that pasta in a kosher pot, and so that already shifts it from a lechatchila to a b'diavad situation for that pasta in question, and therefore, so she did something. She cooked in a non-kosher pot. That a Jew shouldn't do that, but the resulting food. Once she pours the pasta it's too late to use a kosher pot for that pasta. So that pasta is now in a b'diavad situation. That pasta can be eaten. Yeah.
So one of the books I'm reading for the CRC is the Kosher Kitchen. And
Yeah.
they talk about this a lot. It talks about a lot of the potential issues that you could have. And like you said, it's the after the fact, and what I've been reading is more so that like if it would create a hardship that like this is the dinner that you made, and now there's like nothing else that this was the dinner set aside. Like you wouldn't want to create the hardship of like of wasting that meal.
Yeah, so I'd say that's a stricter definition of what I've been using for B'diavad. I think on a basic level, that's what I was taught, 2004. David Fink said this, I remember very clearly. He said, from 2003, could have been, 2003, 2004 academic year. David Fink said, once the pasta's in the pot, it's too late to do it in the lechatchila way, and that shifts it to B'diavad, and therefore it's permissible to eat. They may not be necessarily, wasting pasta is, it's not nice under any circumstances. It can go even further. There are also those, there's a concept, shat hatachak b'diavad, like if your extenuating circumstances also creates like a shat hatachak. So that could even be you're traveling, you're staying in an inn, the innkeeper says, here's your pot, here's your ingredients, make yourself some dinner. This is what happened, 300 years ago. And so then you would even be allowed to use the innkeeper's pot, right? So you yourself could do it before it's been cooked, because you have no other pot and you're traveling, this is what you have to do. People didn't travel for pleasure, right, before modern times. So if you're traveling, it was for a pretty good reason, a really important reason, a dire reason even, and so that's even also an extension of this idea. So I think in terms of like an actual person that you actually know in an actual relationship, I think you got to think of like long term. What are the ground rules you want to establish? What do you want to educate them towards? See what I think it'd be a little straight like. Eventually, Aunt Millie, whatever, will ask them, why don't you use the pot? I'm like, right? That'll be awkward, right? So better to be upfront, I think, earlier on about kashrut, etc. But I think it's just worth knowing. And more important in your own home, like if you make a mistake, just remember that in many of these cases, the food itself is going to be kosher if you accidentally use the wrong pot for something.
But we have this hierarchy of what is more important than the other thing. Like if we're in some totally non-Jewish country, and I didn't eat in like 4 or 5 days, it would be better to eat, and there is only non-kosher food. From what I understand, it would be better to eat non-kosher than to starve to death. Yes. It's certainly better to eat non-kosher than to starve to death. That's a pretty dire, but usually it doesn't come to that. Usually you can keep yourself alive with some bread and maybe some tuna fish. It's not usually no. I'm just talking about the hairs, like she was saying. What exactly did you say about?
Oh, she wasn't talking about a case of hunger or starvation, God forbid, even hunger. It's just a case of like this is your dinner and you'll have to go home and have a peanut butter sandwich.
Right.
That's not hardship, but it is disappointment. Mm-hmm. It is a loss. It is right. That's a right, and that also. It's not enough to like make you violate a rule, but it does transform the situation. That's sort of like that's a bidiyah. That's not an ideal situation. We don't want you to be wasting food. We don't want you to be disappointed
exactly.
that way.
There is here. So like, which one is more important? That I throw the dinner away, or just eat something that's in that in between stage? It's not
an in between stage. This food is entirely kosher.
Right.
They're very clear. If the food wasn't kosher, you don't eat it, okay? That's not, if Aunt Millie says, I'm so glad I finished making my lobster soup this morning in time to make the pasta for you, then you can't eat that pasta. No matter how hungry you are, no matter how insulted she is, you can't eat that pasta. This is because the assumption is it wasn't used for 24 hours, the food is entirely kosher.
So my question is, which one on the hierarchy of importance, which one is more important to keep? And I'm seriously need to know. Is it more important to not waste food, even though, let's say I know it's not kosher, it's not in between, it's definitely not kosher. Is it better not to eat it, not to waste it, or just say, you know what, that's okay, it's better?
No, if it's not kosher, you can't eat it. If it's nice to avoid wasting it, maybe you have a non-Jewish friend who could eat it, or you have a cat you could feed it to, whatever. A dog. The Torah actually says the Torah talks about feeding the non-kosher meat to the dogs. the Talmud says that's a reward because the dogs didn't bark in anger when the Jews left Egypt. I think the Torah even says that explicitly. The dogs didn't, right? And so, as reward, the non-kosher meat gets given to the dogs. That's one of the that's the one thing the Talmud discusses. So, what I was saying was only about food that's kosher that was prepared in a way that's not ideal.
Okay.
If the food's not kosher, you can't eat it unless it's medically necessary.
Okay.
If it's medically necessary, then that's it's medically necessary. But that's medically necessary is different from socially what you want, or it's different from like gastronomically preferences are. Okay. Bugs. Insects, as we saw, are non-kosher, except for a few of these types of grasshoppers that we don't know about. An insect in your... So insects, the taste they would impart was presumably a rancid taste, so that would not be a problem. But we have another issue with insects, and that's a special rule that says that an intact creature is not nullified, even if it's more than 60 times its value. So if you have an intact insect in your food, that's going to be a problem. And so...
I'm sorry,
yes?
Can you give an example of such an instance?
Yeah, like a spider you'd probably use less likely, but a very common would be like a little, like a mite, like a tiny little, an aphid, right? It eats lettuce. And it's very, very tiny, and if you don't look for it, you probably wouldn't even know it's there. Or a little fly that's in your broccoli or something, right?
Okay.
So it's very important for kashrut reasons to clean and wash vegetables and fruits very carefully for insect infestation, because even though it's very small, since it's an intact creature, it is not going to be nullified, even though like the vegetables are so much larger. Now, this only is true for insects that are visible with the naked eye. If they're not visible, if they're too small, if they're invisible, that doesn't count for the laws of kashrut. Only visible things, phenomena that we care about. But if they're really, even if they're very small but visible, we care. So we have to wash things very well for insects. I soak most vegetables in like a mixture of water and vinegar. Some people use special soap for this, and then I rinse it thoroughly. The idea is the vinegar kind of like stuns them, and the soap certainly like stuns them, and then the thorough rinse gets rid of them, and you look as well. Also, I do this as well with blackberries and raspberries. I soak them as well in this mixture and then rinse them very vigorously because a lot of little bugs can be inside little things.
Doesn't taste like vinegar.
If you rinse it well, it doesn't. It doesn't. That's some.
It's diluted enough. Yeah.
It's diluted, and I rinse it pretty well. And sometimes you really do find, in fact, they do exist. These bugs do really exist when you look for them. Another thing that to remember, though, is that two things. Right? One is that as I said before, they're only a problem if you can see them, if they're visible. And there's one opinion that's offered that maybe sort of as a limud zchut, as a way to kind of to justify those who maybe don't wash, maybe people who don't wash as well as they should, or you should, or you'd want to, is maybe very small things, even they're technically visible, but they're in the context of like an aphid on a piece of lettuce is practically invisible since no one notices them, since they're so small that no one notices them. And that people have made that argument. The other important thing to consider is that the strictness of not being nullified, even in 60 times their volume, is because they're intact creatures. But if you, in the process of cooking, they're like chopped really fine, you blend it or you chop it very fine, and they're no longer intact. Okay, and that's also or frozen vegetables. I think the freezing process like kind of causes like if you freeze and then thaw an insect with like a bag of broccoli, or it's not going to survive intact. So if in the normal process of cooking, the insect loses its status as an intact creature, then it's nullified like any other non-kosher substance in 60 times its volume, which certainly is there, and it's also going to be grounds for leniency. So I'm pretty lenient with like frozen vegetables, but fresh vegetables I wash carefully.
Is it true that grasshoppers are kosher?
There's species of grasshoppers and locusts that are kosher, and some communities, maybe you are, I don't know. Some communities maintain the tradition of which kind. And if you go to one of those communities, you know somebody, a Moroccan or whatever, who knows how to eat what kinds of grappler, then dig in. It's supposed to be really good.
Question, I mean, I'm going to bring it back for a second for the meat and milk. I mean,
Sure.
we talked about the rules, which, again, those are the rules, but can you talk a little bit about the reasoning behind it? Because you said that it's not coming from the Torah.
Yeah, so the dairy and the meat is, the Torah says, "Lo tzivishal gedi b'chelev imo," you
Right.
can't boil a kid in its mother's milk.
Right.
This is it 3 times. The rabbis understand that to be a prohibition against cooking any dairy with any meat, eating any dairy and meat that have been cooked together, and deriving benefit from the mixture of dairy and meat. Why? Like everything else in kashrut, like 1,000 different explanations. With dairy and meat, so it could just, one explanation is that this is just what some ancient pagan tribe used to do, and so we don't do that because it's a way of affirming our identity. Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch sort of feels that dairy and meat sort of symbolize 2 different ways of being in the world. Like one of the meat is regression, milk is sustaining and nourishing, and we kind of keep those ways of being in the world separate. So it's symbolic of some sort of keeping those sort of aspects of our interaction with separate, the aggressive aspect and the nurturing aspect, both of which are necessary, but which we want to kind of keep those categories separate and distinct because they each have their place in the scheme of things.
And the fact that it talks about a veal and his mother, di b'chelev imo,
Gives
it
you a
talks
goat
about
and
a cow and a veal, and now we
It's a quite it's understood to be all meat and all dairy, not just a goat and its mother's. No, yeah. Sort of expand more broadly. There's there's a joke that is actually a several hundred-year joke. It's like an anti-rabbinic joke that goes back 600 years. That God tells Moshe, "Lo tzivishal gedi b'chelev imo," don't boil a kid in its mother's milk. He says, "Oh," Moshe says, "You mean we're not supposed to eat any dairy with any meat products?" And I said, "No, I said lo tzivishal gedi b'chelev imo." "Oh, you mean we're not supposed to, to eat the ones that were cooked?" He says, "No, lo tzivishal." "Oh, you mean we're not supposed to derive benefit from the mixture?" And God says, "Okay, have your way, whatever you want," because that's a very learned joke, because it's it does say 3 times in the Torah. The rabbis understood each of those. That's what the 3 times signify. But that the words don't necessarily indicate that on their own. But that's the rabbinic, the Torah Shabbat, the oral Torah is what allows us to make sense of and implement the written Torah, which on its own is really not sufficient. I should point out, chicken and dairy is only rabbinic prohibition. There are actually there are 3 opinions in the Talmudic rabbis about chicken and dairy. One opinion is that it was permissible. One opinion that it was also a biblical prohibition, Sor D'Oraita. And the third opinion that it's a rabbinic prohibition. And the third opinion is the one that we follow. So we treat it, we don't do it, we don't mix chicken or any birds with dairy, but it's less severe. It's only a rabbinic violation instead of a biblical violation. That's the position that one has.
So 2 quick questions.
Yeah.
First of all, fish and milk does not
Fish and
cover.
milk is fine, yes.
Okay, and
There's
last
a
one.
lot, yeah. Cream cheese and lox is great.
And the separation, like the 3 hours or 6 hours,
We'll get there,
or
we'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there, and we'll get there. That's letter J. Let's pause here now, because I think it's a good pausing spot. If you can stick around for the 9 p.m. Mariv, I'm sure they'll be happy to have you join them. We're not meeting next week, I don't think. And then we have a bunch of weeks we're actually not going to meet for, which I'm sorry about, but there are other classes you can come to. And if you have questions in the meantime, you can call me, etc. to see you on Shabbat and stuff. But next Tuesday, Tuesday's good. I'm away the 22nd, I'm away the 29th. And then once we get to April 5th could probably work. So let's I'm going to put April 5th, Tuesday, April 5th, I'm going to put on the schedule. We'll meet again at 8 o'clock, if that's okay? April 5th? Okay, so that's a long time from now, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Purim.
I'm traveling. What? I'm traveling, and there's Purim, and you got stuff going on, and
Is there any camera here?
Anyone, I'm sorry?
Should we come dressed up and?
Yes, on Purim night, come dressed up. Yes, it's a lot of fun. Purim night, there's a...
Oh, it's like one of my favorite Jewish festivals.
Good. Me too.